Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Here it is on Tuesday as we talk about continuing understanding God's will, which is always fun.
Good morning.
One of the biggest question, which I think you raised, is, well, how do we get to the specifics of actually me understanding something specific for me? Is that really possible? And if I am, and I only do what God speaks, which we'll get into, is, well, won't that paralyze me?
Right.
Or I become so obsessed by it that I stop functioning. So those are really good questions. But maybe you could share, as you learned this, how did you learn from wishful thinking prayer to discerning and receiving God's will? That was specific to you. What are some of the things that happened to you?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think of a specific example for you, but this has been, I did share with you, this year in particular, our entire family is really pursuing this idea of asking for specifics. And actually, at your suggestion, we put together a journal that's our Ask, Seek, and Knock journal, that the whole family will record questions that we have and then updates that God has spoken into the details of things. But for me, I will say, just from a personal standpoint, it has been a big shift to go from that broad, I want your will be done, to learning to ask further questions. Okay, God, you have spoken over this situation. We'll go back to, honestly, we've shared before, when I knew I was supposed to be going out to take care of my dad's estate, and there were details that had to be taken care of, though. And I knew he was saying, you're doing this is going to honor your father. You're doing this to be blessed, to be a blessing. But there were things I needed to know. Okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic. When is it safe to travel? What hotels can I stay at that are going to be well cared for, that will be a safe place for me to be? Who do you want me interacting with? Who are the players going to be that will make this go the most smoothly? Those were all things that had to be asked. And it was very contrary to my normal personality to slow down and wait for answers before I acted. So, my normal would be, and I will say, that was even when my dad passed, I am that person. One of the reasons he made me one of the executives of his estate is when I have a list of things to do, I get them done. I will get them done, and I'll go down the list and just knock it out, and I can keep the emotion out and make things happen, and then the emotion comes later, but I'll get it done. So in this, I had to really back up and, okay, yes, there's something to get done, but you know what? Even in the meantime, there were times that he slowed me down, and he's like, I know you want to text your sisters and have everybody sign this piece of paper right now. I instead want you to see how their hearts are doing right now. Are they grieving right now? Do you need to check? I'm like, oh, really, God, I got to do that. But there were things just along the way that me learning to let him lead, and that he would perfectly navigate it, took discipline, actually, in an odd way.
Right.
To step back and trust him, but not just trust him and then be hands off, to trust him that he's going to give me an answer, and then I act on that answer, and then I ask what's next and continue on from there. And as it unfolded, as you shared recently, or we shared recently on here, his timing was absolutely perfect. When things much slower than I would have than I would have preferred.
Yeah.
And as it has rolled out, it couldn't be better for who the family is that's going to be getting the house, the closing date, how things are playing out. He was lining things up, and there were many moving pieces that had to take place that I would have just wanted to check off the box and roll right ahead.
Right.
And I may have missed not only, blessing for myself, but blessing for others along the way.
Right. Yeah. And so, would you say that you have learned, both because of your expectation and then your experience, that God does give you specific answers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I feel like I can trust that. I don't always trust that. So there, I'm still learning, oh, slow down, Kathy, you've gotten ahead of yourself. You didn't go to ask him for that. But I have learned that he will give the specifics.
Right.
And I can trust that he will, and it's worth waiting for his specifics.
Yeah. And it was true for Linda and I, true for you and Dan, true for everybody that we walked through this. When we started, the truth is we don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually our thought has been, it's unknowable.
Mm-hmm.
God doesn't get to that level of specific, and isn't it up to me to just do the best I can to fulfill what I think Scripture says?
Right.
And when I started, me personally, and then you as well, we were showed no, and as I got into the Word, it has to be specific, again,
Mm-hmm.
because of his charge to us and the aspect of surrender and what Christ said. I only did what the Father spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So it was specific to him.
Right.
When I began to receive that, well, wait a second, if this is true, it's got to be specific.
Mm-hmm.
And unique to me. Okay, well, I got to go learn that. And
Right.
here's what we're trying to encourage everybody in, is that don't even fret at that prospect. Just let's go learn it. God says, I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Linda are example, Dan and Kathy, all of our leaders, all the people that go through the retreats, they begin to realize, I experienced that.
Right.
I learn it.
And it's so freeing when
It's
we
so
realize
freeing,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to experience the fullness of that, because we get to see how fantastic the life is that God's going to deliver to us that is specific, unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the conversation, and this happened, when we were together filming this summer with all of our leaders, is, see, the conversation isn't, I wonder if this is true, I'm struggling, I can't get it. It's the opposite. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
sharing, I got this fantastic answer and this is what happened.
Right.
And we
Right.
rejoice, like, wow, look how cool that was.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how remarkable, that was, that God used that amazing supernatural thing to reveal to you, something that was really beautiful and wonderful that you got to experience. And we rejoice at that, because why? Well,
Right.
it's true.
Right.
It really
Well,
is fulfilled.
And there's a double side of the rejoicing in that too. It's the rejoicing in seeing it happen, and the rejoicing in what we experience is everybody truly delighting in God and God delighting in them. And it makes me think about, so this morning I was reading a thread from a friend who had posted about his daughter, and it was really a fun thread to read, because he was talking about his favorite 18 minutes of the day. And it's his drive to school with his young daughter. And he's like, in those 18 minutes, I'm pouring in wisdom, where sometimes we're laughing, sometimes we're singing, but I'm making the most of those 18 minutes because it is such a joy to be with her. And then he's like, so what's your favorite part of your day? And as I read through this string, people putting on there, comment after comment came either back to, spending time in the Word with God, or, oh, when I get that stolen moment, my kids are grown now, but when I get that stolen moment with them here, and I get to do this, and we get to talk about this. And all I could see thread throughout that is delight. delight that God has in us and delight that we have in him.
Yeah.
And that, that's what it is. When we're sitting, we aren't relegated to just, sometimes in our earthly sphere, we can only sit face to face with our child for 18 minutes or whatever that drive was that he had. That was the quiet time that he had. But our time with God, abiding with him, that time to delight in him is not limited to those, 18 minutes or whatever it was that you spent even in his word that morning. He delights to be with us 24/7 and to interact and to laugh and to sing and to joke and to put speak to us through another person and to put a song on our heart or bring a scripture to mind and be so specific, but it's that delight. And when we all gather, I think one of the things we see is a room of delight. People who delight to be in God's presence and people who are being delighted in by God because they want to be there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. So as we've discussed Luke 11, ask, seek, and knock. God says, ask and it will be revealed. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it will be open to you. So it's a process. Mm-hmm. So remember, per se, he's saying, stay in process. Keep processing. It's step by step by step. Stay in the process. Ask, seek, knock. Ask, seek, knock. Don't give up. Don't stop until you know and experience all that I'm going to reveal to you through the process. So he laid it right out. He said, because our preference again would be, well, just tell me the answer. And he didn't say, okay, you ask me and I'll just tell you the answer. No, ask me and I'm going to take you through a process of what? Right. Seeking, knocking. And remember, we've already built the premise of it is truth. What's the truth? Help me understand the truth. Let me respond to the truth. Let me get confirmation to the truth, the light, and I'm always willing to receive, new information. So, okay, let's go ask, seek, and knock. So, ask for his will. That's always the first. What do you have to say about this? Show me your will. I want to know your will, and I believe I'm going to get it. 2 is seek. The word there in the Greek is look for it as if it's lost treasure. And that is, the treasure's there. It's not obvious what the answer is. And don't short circuit where he says, just leap and say, God, just tell me where it is. No. This is now your role of looking for it as if it's lost treasure.
Right.
And understanding it. So it would be similar to, we have retreats, and I use this analogy. I said, and everybody stays in bedrooms in our house. And I say, hey, if I told you that Linda and I put 5 gold bars in your room, they're in your room, I'm not going to tell you where. If you find them, they're yours. I said, what would you do? And they all.
You would go look. You'd tear apart the room.
I tear apart the room. I know it's in the room. And I'd look under the bed, look in the closet, look into the sheets, look in the drawer.
I may sneak in somebody else's room too.
That's it. Yeah, I'm going to go look. And he said that's the image of you're looking for it as if it's lost treasure. So you're putting a lot of energy toward it, knowing it's going to be there. And he says purposely, and this is something that, again, we don't fully appreciate, but I'm not telling you exactly where.
Right.
You have to go look for it. And my understanding of that a little bit is a couple things. One, it's step by step by step. And you're going to be receiving clues, information. Yep, you took the right step. Yes, you found something. You got a clue. You got a piece of the puzzle. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And number 2 is that God says that what I value of you is you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the whole abiding thing, see, we can't look at it as, okay, I'll do it in order to. He says, no, I want you to enjoy the relationship, which is why I
Yes.
created you in the first place.
Right.
And the reason that I have you look is you have to stay dependent on me through the looking.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the fun, the adventure of discovery of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
look at that. Wow, look at that. Look at what God did here. Look at what God showed me here. He says, I'm rejoicing, God speaking, of being with you, and you get to rejoice by being with me, so that I built that into the process.
Mm-hmm.
That don't try to short circuit it or just stand there and say, well, I'm not moving until you give me the answer. He said, I can wait longer than you.
Right.
So let's go, keep going. So seek
Well, and I
for it.
love that you bring that up too, because I think sometimes we get in our own head and we start to think that God's not telling us because he's playing games with us.
Right, right,
Or
right.
he's, you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
begin to put characteristics of ourselves, of human flesh,
Right.
on God. And, why isn't he telling me this and whatever? And we don't see the fact that it's because for him, it's not so much about the end product as the delight of the process
Right.
and just being with us.
Right. So as you're considering um, God's will, as you're considering due diligence, it's my seeking is to go find the truth,
Mhm.
and I'm going to investigate, pursue information
Mhm.
about this thing that I know I'm planning. I'm on the right path. Yes, I know where I'm headed. Now I have to go look and seek and check out until I see truth, step by step by step, knowing that those steps, as I seek it, will lead me to the answer. So,
Right. Now let's talk about that seek for a second. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm only seeking Christians in that, or only seeking and looking in the Bible. That seek step is a different level of seeking information, correct?
yeah, because remember, what in fact are you seeking? Truth.
Mhm.
Everything about this, what's going on here, who's the right person, how do I take the step, help me do my processing. And I
Mhm.
keep asking, not in a predetermined, I only do X. It's
Mhm.
I look all over. That's why the images look for it as lost treasure.
Right.
So if you're going in that bedroom looking for that bar, you're not saying, well, I'm only going to look in the closet.
Mhm.
No, you're going to look everywhere.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because you know it's there, and you're supposed to
Mhm.
look for it as if it's lost treasure. So that's your heart, is you don't limit it in any way. I'm
Good.
going for the truth. So that I was using the example yesterday of looking for a new attorney. Um,
Mhm.
so what do you have to say about that, Father? I'm going to provide you a new attorney. Yes, you're on the right plan, the right path. Go seek somebody new. Okay. So what step would you have us take? Well, start to network and ask people who they recommend.
Mhm.
Uh, so we do. We start saying, do you know anything about this? And do you know anybody that knows anything about this? And what do you recommend? And we get some people that say, well, you ought to consider this guy. I've used this guy before, and go pursue that. Okay. And because we're seeking truth, I don't predetermine, well, probably that's not the guy because this guy doesn't know much about it that he's talking about. And I don't know whether he knows or not, so I won't even bother. No, he just gave me a name.
Mhm.
Well, why wouldn't I go seek it? I'm going
Right.
to. So what do we do? Well, we go and we could contact him. Could we get on the phone? Yep. Could we talk through what we're looking for, what we need, and what the issue is? And now you tell us about you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? What have you done? How does this work? And do it. And so through the discussion, and remember, my role in seeking the truth is usually what it means is asking really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And pursuing that, so that we're talking to them, and then we say, okay, give me an example of what you've done here.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really have many. Well, what about this? Well, I know about that, and of course the questions that we ask is, okay, do you have somebody that you've done this for recently?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no.
Mm.
So as we're listening, and we're all on the phone, by the way, together, and so as we're listening, we say thanks, appreciate your input, and we'll get back to you. At the end of that phone call, when we all got together and said, okay, what did you understand? What did you hear? And we heard he doesn't have the experience, because it became obvious that, yes, he knows the area, yes, he could do the work, but he hasn't done much of the work.
Right.
And so that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we understood that together. Okay, we're seeking, so therefore, Father, our understanding at the moment is that this isn't the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
We got a confirmation. You're correct. Keep looking. Okay. Why? Well, because we saw it, and we didn't say, well, why didn't you just tell us up front that that's not the guy?
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, a couple things. One, you and I are in a relationship, and I enjoy that, and it's step by step. Number two, by you processing it, you actually learned how to ask the right questions. And
Oh, that's good.
and you saw something, and you kind of understood what was an answer that would be my answer and what wouldn't be my answer.
Mm-hmm.
You learned that. Okay, so I'm teaching you this as you go down the path of seeking. Okay, all right. So then we look and find another guy, kind of go through the similar thing, and there wasn't positive responses, and like, okay, we see again that that's not the right guy, but we learned more and we understood more. And then we talked to this other guy, and he says, well, it just so happens that last week my wife said she met an attorney that's in this field.
Mm-hmm.
I think you ought to talk to my wife, see who she met, and go talk to that guy. Okay, so call the wife. Yeah, I just met this guy a week ago in my business, and he just made a comment, and it wasn't even the business I'm in, but he says, I know this business that you're in. And so, yeah, go ahead and give him a call. Tell him I sent him. Okay, so we call him. And immediately, we start talking. This is the situation. He says, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is how this works. Everything that you've been told, it isn't quite that way. It works a little bit different than what you're telling me. It works this way. And I do this every single day. And here's what I've done. And here's how it works. And I'm telling you that because of how good we are, your bill isn't going to be that big because we're really, really good at what we do.
Nice.
And we know how to get it. And by the way, because you've described to me that this is going to be a long-term relationship, I'm going to do fine. But I'm not going to soak you up front. Let's just get to it. Let's just get, okay. Well, that felt good.
Yes.
That was a positive. Yeah. Okay. Now we reconvene. Remember, we're always looking for truth.
Right.
What do you guys think? We felt good about this guy. The answers were direct. It was clear. He understood it. He gave us some new information. All right, what do we do next? Let's go do reference checking. Because by the way, if he really did that, he'll have people to say he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go find out. So we call him up and say, hey, we'd like to pursue this further. Could you send us, 3 clients that you've had in the last 4 months?
Mm-hmm.
Don't even tell us somebody you did 5 years ago. It's the last 4 months. Can you tell us
Right.
3? Oh yeah, sure. I'll let me call them, make sure that they're okay. This is all confidential stuff, so let me call them and see if it's okay. I'll give you the names. Call them up. Yeah, sure, call them up. Got the names. Call them up. Based upon what we've been doing, we knew what questions to ask these guys.
Right. Nice.
And they all reinforced you couldn't get anybody better than this. And here's why, and here's what, and we do this, and this is how it works, and we're pleased as punch. And yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we went through the asking process, and we were looking for it as lost treasure, and we understood that process is my responsibility. Seek, seek, seek. Look,
Okay.
look. Respond to the truth. And by the way, and this is important, and I help people with this a lot, don't second guess yourself. So that as we were receiving in the first couple, no. We didn't say, well, maybe we should relook
Maybe we
at
missed
it.
something.
Maybe we missed something.
Yeah.
We should try again. No. God says, and this is the end of the story, and it comes back to this. What did he say? Your son asked for an egg. Do you give him a scorpion? He asked for a fish. Do you give him a snake? I'm not going to bait and switch you. In other words, the burden isn't on you to evaluate the answers that I'm giving you. Trust the answers and move forward with that answer, so that and I've learned this, don't second guess. God says, I am telling you that. Yes, your perception is correct. Yeah, I made it that way so that you saw the truth and you didn't waste any more time
that's great.
by second guessing yourself. And so I say, trust. Yeah, I don't feel right about this. No, there's something not right. Okay, trust it. Because what that did is, you know what? No. We see no. Now we don't know yes, but we know what. Go next. Go pursue it again. Go get the next guy. Go see the next guy, and go see the next piece of information. And so we worked all the way through that. And our role, and what happened is that God guided us step by step by step. Let me bring you down to what I call now the door. And that is, you're at a door, and you've been given a confirmation that you're at a door. Now you got to knock on that door. In other words, is this it?
Okay.
Is this the answer to your will? And I've done my due diligence. I've saw it. I've come to a place where now we all confirm and say, let's see if we can put a contract together with this attorney. And God, we're going to knock. And we know, even today, you could close that door. And we're okay with it, because that's part of the process.
Right.
Okay, you come to the door, you got to knock. Is this the right person? Is this the right answer? And we knock. And our knocking was, let's put a contract together and confirm that he's got the talent and the ability of his staff to do our work now. And so we kind of had 2 pieces of the door. One, let's see what the contract says.
Okay.
Does it, in fact, line up with everything he just said about rates, time, expenses, all the stuff that he's going to do, commit to what he's going to do, we'll know because he already said what he's going to do.
Right. Right.
Well, does it line up? And see, a lot of times they say it and then they put it in a contract. And like, well, wait a second. That contract doesn't reflect anything he just said. He threw in a bunch of curveballs. He threw in a bunch of this. Like, whoa, wait a second. And God could be saying, no, the answer is no. Because it didn't open up. And what I say to people is,
right.
As you're knocking on the door, don't knock it down. Because, hey, great. We need a guy. This guy looks like the guy. Let's just go make this happen. And why I'm knocking the door down. We're even at that point, we're saying, Father, you can close this door. We're right. completely fine with it. And we'll say, you know what? No, this door didn't open. We got to go back to the seeking mode.
Okay.
And go down another path. And that's okay, because it's an entire process. Secondly, is the contract could be okay, but does he really have the time to do this? Because we got a lot of stuff going on. So he can't say, right. Well, I can only give you a few hours a week, or I can't get to this for another 6 weeks. Well,
that's not going to work for you guys.
That would not work, and that would be a closed door. And it wouldn't be, well, then we'll do nothing, or we'll try to force it, or accept the fact that you're going to say you're going to do it, but you really can't. And now we're going to be frustrated. No. So we processed the contract, and we processed truth about, do you have the time, the staff, and the ability? Because here's our activity level. Well, the contract came back. Good. Exactly what he said. Yep. I got the talent. Let's get him on the phone, and let's talk about it together. So that you know that what I'm saying to you is really going to happen, and I am not going to bait and switch you. Okay, great. So that door opened up, and we processed it all the way through, asked for God's will. We did a seeking mode, and by the way, that took about 3 to 4 weeks. Then we got to the knocking stage, and it confirmed, yep, the door is yes. We got the guy. Okay, now.
I love what you're describing here too, is being a very active participant.
Yes.
In seeking God's will and acting on it. And I love just, because sometimes I think we are just so passive in that.
Yes. And we'll come back to the being paralyzed part too. So it came together. He was the guy, and now we start. And we now get into the project. Okay, here's what we got going. Here's what we have to do. And immediately picked it up, did exactly what had to happen, did it in a way that nobody else was doing. And it was a fantastic answer. It was, God said, I gave you the best guy. And you understood the process. Ask for my will. You were going to have to spend time seeking the truth. Enjoy that. There'll be a point where you knock. I'll confirm that. And then you'll see that my answer is absolute. I didn't say, well, you kind of blew it because you did all those things right, but I was just kidding. No. God says, I'll fulfill the truth, the wonder, the beauty of what I'm giving you, and you'll rejoice. And so we can, afterwards, by the way, and we still talk about this, how fantastic was this? That we got led from a problem to God's solution, and God's solution is fantastic. It's over the top fantastic. We're rejoicing at that.
Which then encourages you to go back and repeat the process with other things, because you once again see his faithfulness to give the answers when we seek.
Right.
Specifically. Right. Yeah.
Now let's come back to the idea of being paralyzed or neurotic about it. So we're going down the path. What we don't do is say, here's somebody to go check out. Should I make sure that he's a believer? Should I make sure that he's wearing the right clothes? What do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? He said, just walk forward. I've told you to go ask questions. Go ask the questions.
Right.
Don't get stymied into, what color socks should I wear today, to ask those questions. Do I get so neurotic that I can't function? No. Walk forward. And he said there's something really important here. That is that my will merges in with your activity, and you know that you know that you know. And if it's not, I'll check you. I'll say, no, I'm taking away your peace. I'm giving you an uncomfortableness that what you assumed, and correctly so, we're walking down the path, and yeah, I'm doing these things, always seeking God's will. If there's something that you're moving away from, I will let you know. I'll check you. So don't every 10 seconds, am I doing the right thing? 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 He said, remember the life of a toddler. A toddler doesn't even think that way. They just say, what do we get to do now? And I'm going with you. And they know something. If I'm not doing the right thing, or I'm about ready to not do the right thing, you are going to intervene.
Right.
And say, nope, don't touch that stove. Nope, don't cross that street. Nope. I'm going to come and check you. And they understand that as a way of life. So they enjoy life to the full, always willing. A toddler is always willing. I'm going to go with you, do what you tell me to do. I'm going to rejoice doing it with you. And if there's something not right, you'll step in and tell me.
Right. And doesn't that even come back to, I think about 1 Corinthians 6:17, but the one who is united and joined to the Lord is one spirit with him. And then there's another passage that talks about us having the mind of Christ.
Yes.
And just, as we walk with him.
1 Corinthians 2:16.
Yeah.
We have the mind of Christ, yes. And he says in 1 John 3:14, all the way through 4:1, is, I will check your spirit. He uses the word condemn. I'm going to help you understand, are you at peace with me? And if you're not, you just say, okay, I have been going down this path. I have been walking this way. I've been seeking. And I see right now there's something different you're asking me to pay attention to. I'm going to stop a second because I got to check in my spirit. Okay. Let me understand and lead you now into this new thing, this new place, of what to do. Like for example, I think I was describing the frustration with people that weren't being honest working for us, and they were charging us things, and my reaction was, I would like to do X, and I got to check in my spirit. Well, there's a different answer to this if you have a heart to receive it. And I didn't have to worry about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? I have a relationship with God that intervenes and says, well, let me check you here. And that's part of God's will is, okay, pay attention. And whenever I get checked, which is, I get checked, I stop. I immediately know, okay, I've missed something. Right. Or I'm about ready to say something, or I'm about ready to do something that is really not God's will. And it's that specific. I know something specific. Now, usually at the moment, by the way, maybe you could share as well, I don't necessarily know exactly what it is. Other than, well, something's not right.
Something's not quite right.
Stop a second. let's discuss this. And let
Mm-hmm.
me give you some wisdom, insight, and clarity about, what you're about ready to do isn't my will. Let me lead to something else. And so what that
Mm-hmm.
does is it takes away the neurosis of it, or it takes away the
Right.
obsession by it. Is, well, I can't even put my socks on unless I know which ones.
Right.
Now, by the way, and this is true. You go to put your sock on, and guy could stop you.
Right.
I'm going to check you. Okay, what? Uh, there's a spider in your sock, and I'm trying to protect you. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
thanks. Now, every day, I normally put them on. But this one time you get checked. Why? Because he knows more than me. And that's why you
Mm-hmm.
start to learn, did I say, should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? No, I'm naturally walking through doing what I believe is what being asked to do. I'm at peace. But there'll be moments where he'll say, hey, by the way, nah, this particular thing isn't the right thing to do. I need to check you.
Mm-hmm.
What? Let me show you. And maybe you could share how that works for you. I know you've experienced the same thing. How does that work so you don't get too obsessed by, are you doing it correctly?
Well, really, for me, I think a lot of it comes back to even just this idea that we are the temple of God, the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so while we're called to ask and seek and knock, we are walking with him
Yeah.
in us 24/7. And so, as I'm going along, let's say, I've shared with you before, I have such a heart for the homeless. And so there are times that I'll be walking along and I desperately, want to do something to reach out to help a person. And I will sometimes feel a check in my spirit of which I don't like to feel. Not right now, Kathy. This isn't the time. Keep walking. And I have learned that he is giving me safety and wisdom in when to walk past and when to engage. But that's something I had to learn, is just listening to him and letting and trusting him with. And then, sure enough, I'll be walking along and there'll be somebody else in my path that when I engage with them, they're ready to sit and hear about Jesus. And I'm like, oh, if I had spent the time back on the curb before, I may have missed the timing and the opportunity to cross paths with this person. And so just being that sensitive, we see how Jesus walked that way. He could have engaged with 1,000 different things along the way and healed so many different people, but he went where God told him to because he knew where the fruit was going to be produced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've seen that played out in my life so many times that I'm like, I'm going to learn to pay attention to that because when I listen to his checking, that's where I get to see fruit. And to be honest with you, I'm all about the fruit. I love to see the fruit.
There was example. I have a very similar example in the same field. Is that I was actually on a trip, and I'm driving, back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I'm driving by, then in a median, there's a woman who's obviously looking, for money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I saw her, and sometimes, it's like, I know immediately, yep, do something, and other times no, and I really wasn't paying much attention.
Right.
Yeah, I saw her, and I keep driving up toward the hotel, and I hear this checking in my spirit. I got this
Mm-hmm.
check in my spirit, is that something's not right. Okay, so I just said, what is it? He says, I would like you to go back and give that lady some money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I said, you want me to turn around and go all the way around and give her some? Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I start turning around, and I got to go down and then come back. And as I'm going down, I said, well, how much?
Mm-hmm.
And God says, well, how much you got in your wallet? Well, I had $200 in my wallet because I'm on a trip.
Right.
And I said, because God knows the answer, so I'm not going to tell him $10, $200. He said, give her all of it.
Mm.
I said, you want me to give all my money to that lady? What if she, misuses it,
Right.
blah, blah, blah,
Right.
uh, and, um, and I'm not going to have any money? He said, you can get more money.
Mm-hmm.
give her all of it. You want me, and so I'm in conversation. So you want me to give her all the money in my wallet? Yes. Why? What do you care? Give her the money. Okay, all right. Yeah. So by the time I get around to her, I roll my window down, take out all my my cash, hand it to her, and I don't think she even understood what I gave her. She just said thanks, and I rolled my window up and left, and it wasn't, and this is what we're trying to describe here, is as I even saw her, I didn't say, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Because see, then I've moved from enjoying life to I'm trying to do it perfectly.
Right.
Am I surrendered to God's will? Yes. Am I willing to follow His instruction? Yes. And I trust Him to guide, direct through this aspect of peace, and we'll talk about confirmation. So it's allowing God to speak to us, and what I call the checking in my spirit. So as you've experienced this, and as I've driven by, I got that check. And see, I wasn't even per se even necessarily thinking it was about her.
Right.
I thought maybe it was something else. What are you doing here? What's happening? Well, I'd like you to. Oh, okay. And how about? You want me to do that? Really? What about? And so there's a dialogue to fulfill God's will that He interrupted, and all I did was just follow it. With great joy, by the way.
Right.
And I'll never know, by the way, until we get to heaven again. I'll never know why the $200 was given to that lady.
But at the same time, you trust that God was orchestrating something, and He called you and He invited you to be a part of it.
Right.
And what a privilege.
That's right.
An adventure. Yeah.
It was an adventure. Yeah. So there isn't a, it's yes, I'm seeking His will. Yes, I'm asking for His will as I know things, decisions, issues, adversities. Yeah, it's really easy. You know what? I got a problem here. I got an issue. I got a decision. I'm writing it down in my ask, seek, and knock list. I'm going to walk into the process until I get the answer, and I'm going to stay with it until I get the answer. While I'm doing that, there's other pieces of life that I'm going to get up, I'm going to have breakfast, I'm going to go to that meeting. I'm not going to say, what cereal should I eat?
Right.
Now, He might, by the way, say, the one that you're going to grab, don't do it. It's stale. There's something wrong with it. There's something in it. I can always be letting Him guide me,
right,
knowing He will, and in the absence of that, and I go to pick up, that granola, I believe, assume, and know it's good. Because I know if not, He'll check me. And so I have the freedom to both enjoy life and then to seek, and we'll talk further about the great adventure of getting His answers on the things that are important to me.
Right.
That I know that I need more than myself to decide. So it's quite fun. Well, we're here at the end of our time. If you got any questions, feel free to send it to us on the YouTube comments section, or questions@afjministry.com, questions@afjministry.com. And we'll pick up further about the ask, seek, and knock process, and how the promises are fulfilled as we stay in process, which I'd like to remind everybody, process. And that's the essence of seeking God's will. And Kathy, we will come back and work on it some more tomorrow.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.